Sometimes it just takes a moment to get yourself collected. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for the Getting Started with the Robotic Inventions for the Microbit board. So we're really excited. We have actually a few individuals in our webinar today. Could you introduce yourselves for the crowd, please?
Is it me, one of the individuals?
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Paulo. I'm Strawbees CTO, and well, I'm the go-to technical person here. I've written the MakeCode extension that allows you to program the microbit. So in case some question a little bit more advanced pops by, I'm here to help and answer them.
Thank you, Paulo. Vivian.
Great. And I'm the CMO, and I'm basically co-hosting for Lindsay and trying to help answer any questions during this webinar. Yeah, and I'm also leading the ambassador program, which I saw some people here are part of it, and we're very, very excited to have you here as well.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm Lindsay, and I'm on the education team. So, you know, welcome to our this is a different kind of structure that we have designed for this webinar. So this is more of like a getting started session. So we're going to be going through a series of how to use the board, how to assemble the board with microbit, and also like kind of pointing at a very basic project that you can get started with, as well as how to use the Strawbees extension on MakeCode. So we have a lot of things that we're going to be going through. So again, please, if you have questions, let us know in the chat or the Q&A. And our lovely individuals, Vivian and Paula, will do their best to answer. And we will have a little bit of time at the end of this webinar for a more extensive Q&A about some more specifics that you just saw. And also to note that in this webinar, everything that we are covering, these are actually resources that we have online. So I'll be kind of showing you how you can find these resources as well. So we have like an onboarding guide, as well as documentation on makecode.com. And we also have a lot of resources on learning.strawbees.com. So without further ado, let's get started. So I want to show you a little bit about microbit. So I know many of us might have some experience with microbit, where traditionally we might have something like a battery pack that we connect to the microbit here. So, and it has a lot of capabilities where you have the LED matrix as well as the radio. So we wanted to actually kind of enhance this capability. So we wanted to actually make it easier to connect servo motors. So normally you might have servo motors where there are alligator clips hanging off, and you might have breadboard. So we wanted to kind of make this building process a little bit more simpler. So here we have this board called the Robotic Inventions board. So I'll probably refer to it as the robotics board for short throughout this webinar. So what this board is doing is that it is providing batteries. So you have 3 AAA batteries that you would connect onto the back of the board. And also it's making the capability of connecting servo motors. So we have actually the ability to hold up to 3 servo motors that you can attach. So, you know, you can connect the 180-degree servo motors, as well as the 360-degree, the continuous servo motor. So you can connect up to 3 with the headers and the pins. So another thing to note is that there is an obvious way that you can figure out how to connect the servo, because sometimes, especially when we're getting started, we might move the servo, but we might actually not connect the header to the pins quite properly. So there's like a marking on the back of this board that allows you to understand where the black wire, so if you look for the black wire on the servo motor, you know to align it with this marking. So I can just attach it right here. And then I have my servo motor connected. So this is the most simple way that you can connect a servo motor without having the alligator clips. But of course you can connect, you know, other inputs and outputs. So you can have touch capacitive. So it allows more room for more inputs and outputs capabilities on this board. So if you're familiar so much with how we connect our system, so how we connect this board to microbit as well as to the Strawbees construction projects that we have. So what you can do is just slide the microbit inside, and then that's how you would connect it, the microbit to the robotics board. And then how you might want to connect to the straws. So in the Strawbees system, we have these connectors and straws. So we also have something where it's a clip. So we have this like flexible plastic clip that you can snap on. So all you have to do is just push it right on the microbit on the front, or more commonly, we like to put it on the back. So you can actually put it on the back of the robotics board here, and you can snap it on to any construction, just like this. So then what makes it much easier is that you can just have a basic structure like a geometric shape, like a polygon shape, and snap it on like this. I could just adjust it a little bit. And then now if I want to connect the servo motor to my structure here, what we have here is we have these motor mounts that you can use to slide on. So you can kind of put it on these wings of the servo motor, and you just want to make sure that it slides onto the slots inside the motor mounts. And you can just attach it like that, and they stay on. And then we also have this Strawbees servo arm. So we have this arm that's basically acting like a connector. So you can actually slide straws on this arm, like so. Or you can even, build more vertically, horizontally or vertically. So you can actually put it on this arm, and it could be pointing up. It could be in all directions, as well as you can even use it as a way to secure more Strawbees connectors. So you can actually make your servo arm extend. So now I have like kind of a three-legged arm. And then all I have to do is just place this on top of the servo motor, so it just kind of fits on snugly. And then now I can just use the snaps on the side of the servo motor, and it kind of starts to look like a small like person, kind of like a small robotics creature. So this is kind of a very simple way that you can use the board on the Strawbees construction. And the idea is that you would move and shift things around. So perhaps it's not always in the same spot, but we want you to kind of engage in this physical computing process. So not only just with building, but also with code, which I will show you very shortly how to start to code and get started with MakeCode. So what I also want to point out about this system is that we also have these two built-in RGB LEDs on the board that you can control, and they are clearly marked A and B. So that way in MakeCode, when we learn to code, how to program them. So specifically which ones that you're telling the instructions to. And then another thing to point out is that when we connect the microbit to the computer, so if we connect it via USB, so I'm just going to plug this in so you can see what it looks like. So I've uploaded a program ahead of time in the microbit. So what this means is that I'm actually providing power through the computer and the USB cable to the microbit board, but that does not actually mean that the microbit board is actually on. So what that means is that I am providing power only to the microbit. So even if I pull the microbit out, you can see that the power is still on. But now if I slide it back in, as you can see, the board is not actually on here. So what I want to do is just slide this on, and I'll show you when, so I actually pre-programmed this board so the servo motor will move. So this is actually a quick indication for me to know that the board is actually not on. So when I slide it on, I programmed it so the servo motor would move. And also there is a small green light. So this is a very important factor to think about. But what's really nice is after you upload the program and disconnect, now I can interact. So I don't have to worry too much about keeping it plugged into the computer thanks to the battery pack. So this is one really important factor that I wanted to point out about this system, that we actually try to create a way so you can take it off the computer and just kind of start building, but also go back to the computer to continue programming. So now what I'm going to show you is the resources and how you can actually find some of this information, as well as MakeCode. So now just give me a moment. Change my screen. There. So to find like a lot of resources, like what I just presented to you, I actually presented this fairly quickly, but if you wanted to go through this after watching this recording, or if you want to have like more of an offline version as well, on learning.strawbees.com, we have a landing page for the specific robotic inventions for the microbit board. So if you go on Strawbees Learning, on the front page, you should find the product. So if I click on the product name, Robotic Inventions for Microbits, and then there's a little bit of information about like roughly the age range, which we say is ages 9 to 14, aiming at grades 4th to 9th grade in the US. And if you scroll down, we have actually a list of resources here. So what I just presented to you, we have something called an onboarding guide, which is a lot more in-depth about what I just shared with you. So you can actually review this or even post this online if you would like, share it. You can provide it to your students or just for yourself if you want to go through the steps yourself. So it's actually a way that you can, really understand this. So actually, especially like with the batteries and the power, so you get some of this information. So then now if I go back, also on this same page, there's a lot of activities that you can use to get started. So we have things like the Robotic Crane, which we're actually going to focus on more. So this is the project that I'm going to give you a very brief insight into. So we're going to use this project to show you how we program in MakeCode. So then if I go to makecode.com, so I'm going to go to makecode.microbit.org. And what I'm going to present to you is our Strawbees extension. So as you can see in this program here, that we have like kind of the basic simulator. So we have a simulator where you can show the 3 servo motors, as well as we have a set of blocks that we have pre-programmed that you can use to program and give a set of instructions to the Robotic Inventions board. So to find that extension, you have 2 ways of doing it. So you can go to the gear here and you can click on extensions, or you can go down to advanced, scroll down and click on extensions. And then what you need to do is in the search bar, just type Strawbees. And then you'll see that this is the extension for the Robotic Inventions. So before I click on this, I want to actually show you a wealth of resources as well. So if I click on Learn More, we actually have a page in MakeCode. So in this page here, we actually have a wealth of resources. So the onboarding guide that I just presented to you on Strawbees Learning is right down here on Getting Started. And then we also have like our first program. And then the coding cards. So the coding cards, which I will show you how we get started on coding, is that there are snippets of code that are basically like 20% inspiration. So what that means is that the coding cards kind of give you a few potential outputs that you can create. So like blink, so using the mix, so it mixes between inputs and outputs using the light sensor to the RGB LED or the button press for the servo motor. And then if I go down here, you'll get, you'll even get like a basic instruction on how to assemble the servo motor, or if there's LEDs involved, or this, or how you, or which Strawbee servo arm that you would want to use, and the mounts. It'll give you some basic assembling instructions on the coding card. And then on the coding card, again, it's basically like 20% inspiration. So the coding card may not give you the full back and forth motion, but it's kind of like an invitation to keep creating and modifying this coding card. But also what's important to note is that you can also combine the coding cards. So the idea between the coding cards is that you would actually want to combine them together. Seems my computer is scrolling a little too quickly. But also what I want to point out in this page is that there are documentation. So there is code documentation on this page here that you can look at. But I think because I can't seem to scroll very well right now, I think I will just rely on posting these resources. So then now if I go into MakeCode itself, so this is actually MakeCode. Now you can see MakeCode featured with two coding cards that I pulled from the list. So what I want to show here is how we can combine them together. So these are two coding cards. The first one on top that I'm moving around briefly is the change position while pressing button coding card, which is basically that you have pressing a button, and then you set, so the servo motor will be set to a certain position. So what that means is that you will have the servo motor maybe only move one direction, but it won't actually continuously keep moving because maybe you want to have more of a back and forth motion. And then also for fun, what I put here is the change color 10 times. So what does this look like if I combine the two together? So maybe I want to create a crane, which now you can see in my basic little setup here, some physical computing that is happening. So here I have the crane that I put together. So I'm going to connect it to the computer. So whatever I show coding wise, you can see it happening in almost real time within the downloading time frame. So there we go. So now I've connected my microbit Robotic Inventions board to the Strawbees crane. And I've also combined a servo motor here. So just to kind of show this feature. So I've actually made a very basic linkage. So I'm going to basically give the crane the set of instructions to move the top of the crane up and down. So I only have like part of this code created with the combination of the coding cards. So now if I just show you what it looks like when I download, so now it's set up. It just might take a moment to see what's happening here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press, oh, actually that is the number one thing that I did not check. Always make sure your board is on. So I made it now so I can only move it up and down, but maybe I want to control that. So maybe I want to control the position of the servo motor. So maybe it's not just going up and down all the time, but maybe I want to change that. So how I can do that is that I can look at my code here, and actually I'm going to move this one aside. I'm going to move this temporarily to the side so we can focus more on moving up and down. So what I can do is I can create a variable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable for the position. So again, I'm kind of using this coding card as like my basic like way of inspiration. So I might have used this coding card with any project that we have online, or it could be perhaps for where you can actually have you can use it on the friend bot, which is another wonderful project that we have with the microbits that could be used for perhaps making the robot's head move back and like left to right, or you can make it shift excitedly. So what I'm trying to do with these coding cards is just use them as basic inspiration. Just use it as a way to, get started. So you don't have to start basically coding from a blank screen, from scratch, but it could be something where you might use it to modify and change. And that's kind of like the intention of Strawbees in the physical computing, that we also want to, use it so you're always changing something, the code to the actual robotic project, the mechanical project here. So again, I'm just kind of going through, I'm not going too in depth in the coding because of for the sake of time, which I think in a future webinar, we will actually do more in-depth coding. But I wanted to kind of show this as a demonstration of how you can get started using the many wealth of resources that we have online. So like, I'm just going to finish this code briefly. So what I'm again trying to do is I want to program my crane to go up and down using the button press. So I have currently one button press, the A, that is almost set up. Actually, I think I'll just remove these. And I think I'm actually going to pull in some of my LEDs in here just for fun. So I'm going to basically take apart my coding. So I'm going to add some LEDs, the RGB LED in here. I'm just going to remove that code, take it apart. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, and I'm going to control the other side. So I know my code is getting a little cramped here. And I'll change the position. So basically, now that I've added the variable, changing the variable for the position, now when A is pressed, the servo motor is going to move in one direction by one increment, but then it's also going to change the color of the RGB LED A. So that's with button press A. So perhaps with this other one that I just copied for button press B, I will do something similar where I will do RGB LED B. Ooh, that's a bit of a mouthful to say, but I can change the brightness and the saturation. So now I'm going to download it.
Lindsay, I'm just going to jump in here as a programmer because I see a small little bug on your program. And it's on the block forever, where you set the position to a constraint. You should constrain the position itself. So in the first slot in there, constraint, you should add the variable.
Oh, that's right. I appreciate that, Paulo. Again, as part of the process as well, debugging.
Yes.
We're very lucky to have you, Paulo, our CTO on hand to answer some of the technical questions, but also to help with noticing some of these little mistakes that can be made. But that's fine because that's part of the programming process, part of the physical programming process. It's very, very slight. And also what this shows, so what I also want to show here is that even though my program might demonstrate, maybe my program is actually, I should maybe not say correct, but this is the code that I'm happy with, that now I can actually turn to the crane and I can actually look at maybe the servo motor. So moving sliding this position of the servo motor, because this could actually affect the mechanical linkage. And also what's really nice about the horn is I can just rotate it and maybe start the crane. So maybe the top of the crane is shifting up more. And maybe that's a little too much. So that's actually another bit of input that I'm getting from my project as well. That, not just in the coding side that I'm actually understanding how the crane works, but also how I want to start this project. So again, this is basically an iterative process that we see in MakeCode, but also in the Strawbees construction. Okay. So I think we are getting close to the end of this webinar. But thank you everyone for joining us. So I'd like to open up for a few questions. If there are any questions, Vivian or Paula, that you have noticed from anyone?
Yes, Lindsay, there was one question about, can you share the microbit coding cards? Where can they be found?
Yes, so there are actually two places you can find the coding cards, which if I just change my screen here. So two places you can find it. You can find it on strawbeeslearning.com or learning.strawbees.com, excuse me. We actually have the coding cards in multiple places, but if I just go to the main website here, the landing page, and then if I click on Robotic Inventions for Microbit, this is one way you can find them in the product page. And then if I scroll down to the downloads here, if I scroll down to the downloads here, so now I have the coding cards that I can click on. And this is actually a PDF that you can also download, that you can submit. Maybe you can share in email or on a classroom, like Google Classroom, that you can distribute. Or you can also print them out. And then the second place to find it outside of learning.strawbees.com is on MakeCode. So when you look for the extension, and so when you go to the extensions and type Strawbees here, you can actually go to Learn More. And unfortunately, I can't show it too well because my computer is moving it a little too fast. But in the table of contents, you'll find all the coding cards itemized here. So you can click on one like a remote control motor receiver. And it'll give you the specifics. So those are two places you can find, two websites, on makecode.microbit.org on the extensions for Strawbees, and also on learning.strawbees.com. And then the code documentation, which has been a little hard for me to show, it looks like I was able to scroll down. So you can find the code documentation. So if you want to know more of the specifics for the blocks in MakeCode, also for JavaScript and Python, you can find some information about the parameters and an example written. This is actually a really wonderful guide that Paulo wrote out. So we give major kudos to him for the hard work that he has done on this exciting product. Okay. Is there any more questions?
Yes, I also have the question about the QuarkBot, with the coding cards. Can one use the QuarkBot with the coding cards? Are there different coding cards? Is this also to be found on our website?
Yes, so you can find the coding cards for QuarkBot also on learning.strawbees.com and also on Strawbees Code. So the platform that we use, which we use to program QuarkBot, is a separate platform, and you can actually find all the coding cards there as well. But if I go back into, Strawbees Learning as well, and just go back to the main site. So if I want to find those coding cards, I can go to Coding and Robotics with QuarkBot. And this is the product page for it. So I can find the list of coding cards in the downloads. So they should be right here, as well as an onboarding guide for QuarkBot.
That's great. So perhaps, Lindsay, if you can just post that link into our chat channel, that would be great. Also of the microbit coding cards. And then we also would like to move on to another question, which is, well, we got now lots of links, fantastic. Plenty to plenty to look through. On the physical side, someone would like to know how you've connected the microbit to the Strawbees.
Yes. So maybe I can just look up my crane example here. So the process of how I connected to the Strawbees is using this clip. So we have this clip that we have created that you can snap onto the board, the robotics board itself. So now it's on, but I can also put it on the front of the microbit. But I like to traditionally put it on the back of the board. And then how I connect it to the Strawbees is I use kind of like these two clips here. Think of them as like arms that can grasp, and you just snap it onto the straws, like so. That's the crane.
That looks fantastic. Thanks for demonstrating that. And now someone else is asking, I'm trying to download Strawbees extension, but I can only get the server part. There is no Strawbees part. I'm using Google Chrome on an iPad. Is that a technical question for you, Paolo?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're experiencing, but if you, the moment you add the Strawbees robotics, the extension, it should create an item on the menu of the available blocks that is called Strawbees. So maybe can you please double check if it got really added? Yeah, I guess Lindsay could show the screen to show that, but
you want me to show the extensions?
Yeah, it's just to show that once you add the extension, there is a Strawbees menu item that shows up on the list.
No problem. Let me just start a new project. So let's do that. All right, so now I'm in MakeCode. So now I'm going to go to the bottom. So again, I'm just going to go through the advanced and then click extensions at the bottom. And in the search bar, I'm going to type Strawbees. Oops. And then I'm just going to click on Robotic Inventions. And then now in the menu, it'll show up as Strawbees right here.
I guess that answers it.
Yeah. Also, just to note that there's even more than what is featured here. So setting the RGB, LED, and the continuous servo motor, there's even more blocks that you can use as well.
Yeah, there's another just complementing that's not being able to load the Strawbees extension on the iPad. Well, I'll have a look on that to see if I see any problems on our side here, or if maybe something local for you.
Okay, no, that's a good question. Thank you for sharing. So we'll be sharing these links after. So I posted all the links in the chat, but we will also create a resource, a list of resources. So that way, everything that has been mentioned, we will have a massive list of links. Another good question is, are these like, is for the clip, the Strawbees clip that you can snap onto the microbit in the robotics board, is that available? We have a 3D print file that we actually have out there. It's on Thingiverse, but I will also include this in the link list as well. Okay, so I think we have reached the end of our session, but thank you everyone for joining us. Paula or Vivian, do you have any lasting comments that you want to share about this session or about the robotics board?
Well, just that I'm super excited to see the Strawbees world come together with the microbit. I know many of you out there are using the microbit. It's a very powerful board. but it does really lack this ability to connect to the physical world. So I'm just happy to see that this is finally out, and looking forward to see the new inventions that you guys come up with.
Yeah, and I thank you guys for the time, and we're gonna launch a Strawbees challenge to do like with music instruments the coming 6 months. So if you're interested to join in, and there's some fantastic prizes, and we're teaming up with Soundtrap from Spotify. So I will be reaching out to all of you. So keep out, you know, eyes and ears for an exciting 6 months ahead of us. And Lindsay, of course, you will have more planers lined up.
Yes, thank you. I think our next couple planers will be around the musical competition. So music making is one of them, and also a really exciting feature that we're publishing on the Corkbot on Strawbees code, which is going to be the event blocks. Very exciting, which Paula and I will be working on together. So definitely stay tuned. So if you want to find out more webinars that are being featured, you can go to strawbees.com/webinars. Also, this link will be included in the resource list, and sign up for some future webinars. But thank you everyone for joining us. Take care and keep making.